right, welcome back to the sports show on the damn YouTube. This is going to be our first episode, oh goddamn yes, of some sports talk action. All right, so we're going to just get this going right off the bat here. We're getting some NFL, not free agency quite yet, but tag and non-tagging and all that damn stuff, or franchise tagging that the NFL has. We'll start off with Daniel Jones of the New York Football Giants signing 4 years, $160 million extension. Not really putting up monster numbers. 3,200 yards, 15 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. Nothing that really stands out, but you can see the development going. You think that's a good move right there for the Giants, picking up Daniel Jones, or at least extending him?
That's, man, these quarterback contracts are just bonkers right now. Danny Dimes, $40 million AAV. That's just, I mean, hey, you get somebody that's decent in this league now, you're probably more inclined to lock him up than go back to the draft, because the draft is such a crapshoot now. I mean, you never know. You draft the best guy in the world, and one play and he's, snaps his back in half for something stupid. I mean, look at Tua.
Snaps his
guy's
back
got all the
in
talent.
half. Oh man, that TJ Watt jersey's bringing out some aggression out of your ass.
Shout out Ryan Shazier.
I think you'd be banned for life if you snap someone's back in half. Make them humble. No, but that's a good point, though, man. As far as them picking up Daniel Jones, who else do they really have that they were going to go pick up if they let him go? Well, you going to get Derek Carr. Play out there than Derek Carr. So, yeah, I mean, they were kind of left with no choice, like I said. There was really nobody out there that they were going to be able to replace him and plug him right in. You're almost kind of starting over at that point, at that position as far as your offense. So I think it was a pretty good move picking up Daniel Jones moving forward for the New York Giants. Now on the other side, we got Saquon Barkley. They franchise tagged him. I was kind of disappointed, honestly. I wanted to see what he was going to get in the open market. But Barkley, 1,300 yards, 10 touchdowns. We all know his injury-plagued seasons he's had. It was I'm not going to say he played an injury-free season this year, but still enough to put up some decent numbers. You think that's a good move picking up Saquon? It's only 1 year. I think it was $10 million. I don't know why I didn't write it down, but I think it was like $10 million they picked him up for.
Yeah, it's a position in the league that's so tough. Like, once you get to that second contract with the running back, man, God, they go wrong so quick.
It's my favorite position too. Like, 80s and 90s, it was coveted. And that's, I mean, running backs are always breaking down, I guess, but to me, the running back's kind of like the center in basketball. It's just kind of getting pushed out of the way, but it's my favorite position, so I'm always, a little quarterback or running back sympathy when it comes to their second contract. But look at Ezekiel Elliott. They completely screwed Dallas on that one. But I think Saquon's special. What was he, number 2 pick, right?
I think it was somewhere up there. Yeah, I mean.
And that was during the time that running backs were getting devalued. So, I mean, he's a hell of a player. I think any team would love to have him. I just can't stand them rotating these running backs in and out. But you almost have to kind of save their careers.
You do. It's crazy too, because he had that devastating injury, and then he came back last year and was just, I mean, he was probably top 5 back in the league last year between the passing and the running game. And
for sure.
I mean, look at the Giants' culture shift in one freaking season. That's just nuts.
Sure is. So we're going to slide over to Dallas. Another running back, Tony Pollard, is your prime running back out there. 1,000 yards, 9 touchdowns, 5.2 yards a pop. But as he was franchise tagged out there for the Dallas Cowboys, but they're stuck in that horrible Ezekiel Elliott contract, which at the time, honestly, you can't really argue that it wasn't a good move picking him up. Maybe the money was a little too ridiculous. His cap hit, check this out, is $16.7 million for Zeke.
Oh, that's awful for a running back. Jesus.
Yeah, it is. 876. What do I have here? Why do I have 876? Oh, he's his yards. Damn. Yeah, he only had 876 yards last season. 12 touchdowns, though, which really surprised me. I didn't really think he had 12 touchdowns. I should have looked up his longest run, because every time I see Ezekiel, it was 2 yards, 3 yards, maybe 7 yards a pop, as he was only averaging 3.8 yards a carry. But Tony Pollard, you know how Tony Pollard is? No, 25. I actually thought he was older than that. Yeah, I thought he was older than that. Zeke's only 27, believe it or not. Seems like he's been in the league forever, but Pollard, I think that's your prime running back moving forward, but you really can't do nothing with Ezekiel Elliott's contract. You're kind of stuck with it. It's 16.7. I mean, you can pick up a corner, maybe a D tackle, some help that Dallas is going to need, but I love Tony Pollard, and I was a huge Zeke fan of him coming out of Ohio State. So just to see the downfall, like we were talking about running backs, man, it's just incredible how these guys just fall apart here.
Yeah, it really is. And as a Steelers fan, I'm worried about Najee because he's coming up on that point in his career. And he had that List Frank last year, and now it's going to be contract time next season. And I'm like, okay, maybe we let him go. You got Benny Snell back there, you know.
Yeah, the running backs, man, it is crazy how these guys just fall apart. All right, let's move on to the Kansas City Chiefs as their top offensive lineman, Orlando Brown. He's in a test free agency. Not to say he's not going to be re-signing back with Kansas City, but he's in the test the open market. I think he's the best offensive lineman out there, so going to be pretty interesting where he signs because he's going to get some money thrown at him. But, I mean, why wouldn't you want to sign with Kansas City? You're probably your Super Bowl favorite moving forward into next year.
Yeah, they're a really, really complete team. And I think one thing that you might start to see, though, Patty Mahomes, my least favorite player, went and got all of his money. And now it might be tough for them to start to re-sign some of these guys that are going to need those second contracts. Because what did he get? $400 million for 10 years, I think?
Yeah, he might have to do the Tom Brady thing where every year he's restructuring just to free up $6 or $7 million per year. And you can just keep back ending that contract so they can pick up some guys. That's a thing, though, with having a salary cap league, which every sport is now besides baseball, is you pay your top guy the money and you got nothing else left over. I mean, even in baseball, it hits you hard. Look at the Pujols contract that he signed with Anaheim. I think it kind of, hamstrung him as far as trying to pick up other free agency. Texas with A-Rod about 20 damn years ago. It's kind of hard to wrap up one player. So we're going to move on to, I'm going to try not to mess this up because I always call them the damn Oakland Raiders, the Las Vegas Raiders. Josh Jacobs getting franchise tagged. I think this kind of screwed him, to be honest with you. He would have been the top running back, I think, on the market. Even if Saquon went, I think Josh Jacobs would have been the guy. He had 1,600 yards last year, led the NFL in rushing, got franchised for $10 million. Josh McDaniels, man, the way he works his running backs, throwing it out of the backfield, as he was doing in New England, they're always dinking and dumping, and obviously the rushing yards that he puts up. Josh Jacobs going to Vegas, staying for at least one more year.
That's, at least for me, I think that's got to be like the last maybe 10 years at least, the worst ran franchise in football.
Oh,
I mean, outside of Washington, like they can't get it right. They're like Indy. They're going through quarterbacks. I mean, you lose Derek Carr, and now what do you got? Nothing. I mean, what do you got coming in? Nothing. They don't have a high draft pick, really. They weren't particularly bad. They weren't particularly good either. So they're kind of in this like weird
purgatory.
We're not rebuilding. Yeah, they really are. It's just such a strange organization. And I mean, sign your running back, but you got to have somebody getting the ball to him.
Well, that's the reason why I think for pretty much all sports nowadays, I think you have to fall completely on your ass to come back up because you don't want to be stuck at like 9-8, 10-7 every year because you'll make the playoffs, but you're not going up, you're not going down. Like you said, you're just stuck in that middle plane. You need to get some high draft like Pittsburgh. You need to get some high draft picks in there, man, to keep that going. A couple of years where you completely bottom out. Maybe, with Derek Carr being gone, that probably will get them to that point, but Josh Jacobs not hitting the free agent market. We're going to slide over the biggest name probably on this. Lamar Jackson signed the non-exclusive franchise tag, which means he can negotiate with other teams and the Ravens can match the contract, and if they don't, they're going to walk away with 2 first-round picks. But Lamar Jackson, it's going to be interesting to see how much money he gets and what team he signs with as far as running that type of offense. I think he fit perfectly in Baltimore with them just pounding the ball. I know they had some injuries with Gus Edwards and Dobbins, but Jackson fits so perfect in that offense. It's going to be interesting to see what teams offer him some money.
Yeah, I think the thing that hurts him, 2 things that hurt him a lot are he doesn't have an agent. It's his mom. And he wants that. It's kind of weird, but then he wants that guaranteed contract that Watson got, and I don't think the NFL is interested in giving those out. So I think that's kind of where he's why they did what they did, because they offered him a certain amount of money, I'm sure. And he said, no, I want it all guaranteed. And they're like, no.
Especially that style that he runs running around out there. I mean, he's incredible. He's already got an MVP under his belt. So he's done some things. But I think that Baltimore team is really obviously catered around the type of style, even before Lamar Jackson, that Baltimore likes to run, just smashing up there when they had Ron Rice before he started smacking people up. That was their style, and they've always had that style. But, I mean, I've tried to go over my head as far as teams that would go after Lamar Jackson. I don't see him going to Green Bay if Roger leaves. That just doesn't seem to be a good fit as far as salary cap-wise. Green Bay really doesn't like to dish out the money, so the Colts maybe? I don't even know. Washington? I don't know what team he would actually go sign with. That would be interesting, though, if he does go to Washington with that rival that they have with Baltimore, seeing them go head-to-head. But any teams at the top of your head right now you can think him going to?
No, it's such a weird thing too, because all those owners came out and yesterday and they're like, oh, no, none of us are interested at all. And it's like, sounds like y'all had a little bit of a meeting about that.
What about
I think everyone's afraid of. Go ahead.
No, what about the Raiders though? With them losing,
they need a quarterback. They need somebody. So
I mean, that would flip that franchise around real quick, and you already got Jacobs coming back. That'd be a pretty incredible combo with both of them out there in the backfield, Lamar Jackson and Josh Jacobs. So it'll be interesting to see where he signs with. We're going to slide over to Jacksonville as their tight end. Evan Ingram was franchise tagged. Obviously, Trevor Lawrence, you can see him starting to creep up there after all that shit he had to put up with Urban Dan Meyer kicking the kicker. Who kicks your kicker? My God. But you got franchise tagged. You're $11.3 million. 766 yards, 4 touchdowns, 73 catches. Not really standout numbers, obviously. But with the development of Lawrence and that tight end always kind of being the safety net, they had to re-sign him. Who do you think out there in Jacksonville, though? What do you think about that franchise? You think they're coming up? I mean, they had that incredible comeback in the playoffs, but I think things are really looking up for them out there.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think that's a franchise on the rise. Doug Peterson came in, and it seems like he got it together right away. T-Law, I like Trevor Lawrence. Looks like he's gotten it together.
Josh Allen.
Man, signing a tight end to a lot of money, just not doing it. Seeing what happened with Hawkinson here and just how that all unfolded, it's just like I'm not signing it. Keep him there for your franchise tag, obviously, but.
Yeah, 11.3 is a lot of money.
Yeah, it is. It's a lot of money, and long term, man, you can do so much else with that money and make your team better. Draft a tight end anywhere, really.
Yeah, tight end. I mean, I think if Lawrence wasn't at this stage of his career, if he was maybe in year 5 or 6, I think they might have let him walk and let him test free agency. But I think the fact he's developing, he's got a relationship with Ingram. As far as that comfortability throwing the ball to him, I think that's why they went with him out there. But yeah, 11.3 is a lot, and especially like when we looked over the numbers, nothing really stands out too spectacular to get 11.3 million per year. But we'll slide over to Cincinnati. I still hate Cincinnati because of that damn Madden Super Bowl. I can't get over it. But Cincinnati, they're not putting the franchise tag on cornerback Jesse Bates. He had 4 interceptions. He was franchise tagged last season. Going to be one of the best corners in free agency out here. So Jesse Bates walking from Cincinnati. I think they can maybe make up for this in the draft. Obviously, you're not going to get the same level of play right off the bat. But they have to re-sign Jamar Chase and they have to re-sign Burrow. So that's more than likely why they're just letting him go, is to free up some money down the road. As those are going to be some massive contracts, some massive ones that they're going to have to sign. They're going to have to re-sign these guys. So Jesse Bates going out as free agency. That's another franchise. Cincinnati, do you think they're going to get back to the Super Bowl within the next 2 to 3 years with the competition out there in the AFC?
And that AFC North, I think it's the toughest division in football to come out of. Just everybody in that division is a really good team right now. The Steelers, they're 9-8, whatever, 10-7. But I mean, just everybody in that division is going to just beat the hell out of each other. And since he's really good, and wait till you see what Joe Burrow's going to get. That dude might get $500 million. He might get $500 million.
That's a problem though with salary cap though. Like, I don't see Burrow is kind of like Brady to me. It seems I could see Burrow taking a much less contract just so they can pick guys up. Especially when you've been to a Super Bowl, the AFC Championship game, that debacle that they had hitting Mahomes out of bounds. I forgot the linebacker's name that put the hit on him. I think he's past the money at this point. He just wants to win. And with him and Jamar Chase, man, the chemistry that the two of them have, but hopefully Cincinnati can put it together. I like Cincinnati in real life, but on Madden, I hate them. I can't stand them. How many damn tip passes did they have against me in that damn Super Bowl? Wasn't it like 11 or something like that? Oh my God, I just want to cross them the fuck out on this paper. Anyways,
the thing with me too, as a Steelers fan, I should hate the Bengals, but I can't. I hate Cleveland, yeah. Screw them. But I can't not hate Joe Burrow. I think he's the best quarterback in football, and he's going to be for a while.
I really do. In football. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to argue against it. It's not like, it's a crazy thing to say. I mean, I think most people might have Joe Burrow up there. You got Pat Mahomes, so that's a good topic for maybe next week. Best quarterback. So we're going to slide over to who's really benefited, from Barkley, Pollard, and who was the other running back we talked about? Jacobs. Signing those franchise tags as he's going to be a free agent. Miles Sanders out of Philly. They're letting him walk. This guy's going to get a ton of money. Maybe not long-term contract, but I think he's going to get some money up front. He had 1,200 yards rushing last season, 11 touchdowns, but definitely benefiting from the other 3 or 2 running backs I can't count not being out there in free agency. Miles Sanders, what do you think his prospects looked as far as signing free agency?
And there's so many teams that need a running back too, though. And he's, yeah.
What if you let Jamal Williams walk and just go pick up Miles Sanders? You're not going to have the pounding back that you did with Jamal Williams, but having Miles Sanders out there, I don't like running 3 running backs. I don't want to see DeAndre Swift and Sanders moving in and out. That's just a waste of money to me.
Yeah, it's somebody's going to need a prime back, and they're going to go get him. Tampa, Leonard Fournette, is his career done, so maybe he goes down there. Are they a rebuilding team, though? Are they going to tear it down? It's going to be interesting to see because they need a quarterback. Heck, they needed a quarterback last year after how bad Tom Brady was, but they didn't get one. So we'll see what happens. I think he could potentially go to Tampa, though. Maybe Washington needs a back, too. A lot of market out there for him.
All right, so what do we got up next here, sir?
So I was going to talk a little bit about some of the Tigers that are struggling and some of the Tigers that are doing well in spring training. Our boy Spenny T, as his that's his freaking Twitter tag. It makes me want to vomit.
Spenny T.
It just sounds like some bad porn name.
Oh yeah. Spenny T.
So our boy Spencer, I'll give you a little briefing, then I'll go into it. Spencer Torkelson, in 20 at-bats, has a grand total of 3 hits this spring training.
Were they singles?
2 of the 3 were singles, and he's got 1 double. And he's struck out 6 times.
I really hope he can turn it around, man. When you miss on these first-round picks, baseball used to be the sport where it took them a few years to kind of develop, and you can kind of give them some patience. They obviously rushed him coming up. But if you don't hit on these first-round picks, man, it sets you back so far. Everybody had him, penciled in there for 20 to 30 home runs, pretty much guaranteed. Maybe not his first season, but definitely year 2, 3, and 4. And it just was not happening last season for Spencer Torkelson, man. I think his plate discipline is just all over the place. Hacking and swinging. I don't know what his contact rate is or any of that stuff. I didn't look up any of the stats for him, but yeah. He just looked lost out there. The second half, he finally got something going. But putting him and Riley Green together, man, that was your future as far as developing positional players. And Riley Green's came through, even with missing almost the whole first half with that injury he had in spring training last season. He came in and just started getting on base. He really wasn't putting up high numbers batting average-wise. But his glove, on-base percentage, pretty decent for a rookie. So, yeah, Torkelson, man.
He has had one hit on March 2nd, one hit on March 5th, and one hit on March 7th.
Hey.
Not great.
How's because like I said, not having YouTube TV, I don't get that Bally Sports and MLB Network getting dropped. How's Riley Green looking out there for the Tigers?
Green is hitting .389 in 18 at bats, 7 hits, two doubles, 2 home runs, 7 RBIs, and only 3 strikeouts.
Holy shit, he is tearing it up out there. Good stuff, man. I just picked up a Riley Green rookie for like $1.75 or something. I was actually surprised how low they are because I got a Julio Rodriguez one from Seattle that I paid like $15 for. Now it's going for like $45, which I don't know why it jumped up within the last week. But
a couple of side notes for kind of some performers for the Tigers. Kind of a shock performer here. You've got Eduardo Rodriguez.
Oh, yes.
He has started 3 games. He's pitched 8.1 or 8 1/3 innings, 7 hits, no runs, no earned runs, 10 strikeouts, only 1 walk.
Wow.
So he is kind of dominating.
Yeah, damn.
A couple of surprises for the Tigers too. Leading in the team in at bats is not Austin Meadows, but Parker Meadows, his brother.
Yeah.
He's got 22 at bats. He's hitting .273. He's got 2 bombs, 4 ribbies, 2 doubles, 6 hits, but he's struck out 8 times. And then you've got Andre Lipsius. I've never heard of this guy. Apparently he was drafted in 2019. Guess it was an Avila special on that one.
An Avila special, yeah, on Sunday at Walmart.
Yes. He's got 21 at bats, 7 hits, 3 homers, 7 ribbies. He's hitting .333.
Damn, he's got 3 home runs.
He does. And his OPS is 1.143, which is just...
shit. Watch out, Babe Ruth. Wow.
Yeah, he was drafted by the Tigers, round 3, 83rd overall pick. He's out of Tennessee, the University of Tennessee.
How old is he?
He's got no photo. 24. So he's still... he's still got some room. I don't know if he's going to continue this. It looks like his highest levels that he's been at are A and double A. He did a pretty good stint in AAA last year. He had 159 at bats. He hit .302 with 3 home runs and 24 RBIs. With 33 strikeouts, so it's not great in 159 at bats, but some potential there.
What's he on base for, man?
On base this season right now in spring training is .333. His career on base percentage is .355.
Okay,
which is decent. He's also a first or. See this, man, this is so screwy. It lists him as a first baseman, but then when you click on him, it says he's a second baseman. So
yeah, he might be one of those utility infielders. It's some of these guys now, they're not locked down to one position, which is kind of crazy. They kind of move over the infield there.
But that's going to potentially be an option for them because your big guys like we brought up, Torkelson, he's not hitting. Harvey Baez, Harvey, whatever you want to call him, he's hitting 158. He's not hitting. Kerry Carpenter's hitting 200. Haas is hitting 167. Austin Meadows 167. Akil Baddoo 176.
Haas has some power though in his bat, but yeah, they let what's his name, the Burkhart walk. The catcher.
Oh, Barnhart, yeah.
Barnhart, yeah. So they're going to have to fill that position, but that's what really has held the Tigers back the last, I don't want to say decade, but I guess it has been, finding a positional player with your own organization. They kind of bring up. Victor Reyes crashed and burned.
The Castros?
Yeah, Stewart. A lot of these guys that they were building up, they came in, they could not hit for shit once they came up to the bigs. So at least we got one with Riley Green. Pitching, though, that was always going to be the strong point, and they have had some massive injuries. Casey Mize, Matt Manning. Man, that's what's really been killing them, though, I think, more than the positional players as far as this kind of Avila era, if you want to call it, is these guys who are getting touted so highly have came in and just crashed and burned on the injury side for the Detroit Tigers, which is devastating.
I'll bring up one more before we move on. Some signs on the pitching side besides Erod, Bo Brisky in 4 innings has an 11.25 ERA, so it's not great. Yes. And then Matt Manning in 3 1/3 has a 13.5 ERA.
Yeah, that Red Sox game I caught on the replay got absolutely smacked around, man.
Yeah, the pitching staff's ERAs outside of Erod have not been too great, so that's worrisome. But you're also missing, so much talent on that side. So
are they getting who threw the no-hitter a couple years ago? He's coming back, right? Is it Turnbull?
I had seen him and he hadn't been doing well, but he's not even listed on here, so he must not be a qualifier.
Oh man!
Hold on, let me go to. Oh, there's a second page. They hid it from me. Turnbull's only pitched 2 innings, 450. So can you really garner any information from 2 freaking innings?
Right. All right.
But yeah. So we'll see what comes from them. The other topic I had, NHL Trade Deadline, and the Eyes are playing.
Yes. Well, before we get into the Red Wings, I think Patrick Kane going over the Rangers is just wild, man. You're so used to seeing him in Chicago. I thought it was going to be one of those things with Yzerman, even if the franchise is tanking, just play the rest of your career out there. But yeah, they moved him over to the Rangers, and they already got some talent out there, man, with Panarin, Zibanejad, their goalie, Shesterkin. So the Rangers are really looking good out there in the East, especially obviously picking up Patrick Kane. That's going to be a really interesting mix out there coming out of the Eastern Conference.
Yeah, and they've got a really good coach out there in Gallant, so they're a team primed for success. They played pretty deep in the playoffs last year too. So yeah, the Eyes are playing. It's kind of crazy. Everyone was talking about him possibly being a buyer at the deadline. And then they got absolutely bodied by the Senators in those 2 games, and he's like, nope, see ya. Get these guys out of town.
Yeah, and I agree. I mean, even if you got in the playoffs, I don't think you're going to make any kind of noise. You're still in the rebuilding process. It may look good on paper as far as your win and loss record, but they're not really making enough noise where you're going to be selling some of these guys as far as your draft picks to move up to get some players that really aren't going to make an impact, even if you were able to sneak into the playoffs. So I had no problem with them selling Tyler Bertuzzi. I like Bertuzzi. And nothing against him, but every time I would start a season in the NHL, who's the first guy I'm trading because he's got value? And I wouldn't even have mind if they traded Dylan Larkin, to be honest with you. So I liked what they did, man. Just stack up the draft picks. We're still going to have to wait probably another 2 years realistically before they come up, unless he does some free agent signing or some big moves during the offseason. But I had no problem with them moving the players they did to kind of get this thing going as far as the rebuilding process out there.
Yeah, agreed. I think they were good trades. He's got the draft capital to go out and really get a good impact player in the trade market this offseason now and kind of start to move this forward. And then I think next year, too, you're probably going to see some of the younger talent start to make the roster now, because a lot of those guys have been playing internationally or playing in, other leagues. And I think it's going to be exciting in the next 1 to 2 years to see what they put together, because I think they've got 4 of 4 top 50 draft picks or something. So you can go get any player in the league realistically from a team with that much draft capital.
Well, you add that and you give Mo Seider, I know he's having a sophomore slump, but you got Mo Seider another year under his belt, and obviously Lucas Raymond, who can light it up, Philip Zazina. So they got some offensive talent out there, man. It's just having them get the experience and all that shit and getting them moving out there. Dylan Larkin, how old is he now? God, that's your veteran. That's so weird to think Dylan Larkin's your veteran, but he's got to be 28, right? 29?
Let's see here. Dylan Larkin is 26, so he's still relatively young, and, he's locked up long-term. He's going to be a Red Wing for life, so I think at some point you have to, no matter what league you're playing in, you need some sort of a rock on that team, whatever team it is. And that's good when you have that guy, because that's your building block. That's the guy that the young players are going to come in and look at, because he's been there. He's done that. The guy's a really good player. Is he a top 10 in the league?
Right.
No, but he's a really good player, and that there's a lot to that, being a really good player, not being all-time great, but a good player. Because that's something you have to have on your team.
And I think goaltending-wise, man, I love Husso. I mean, he's not playing with a good defense in front of him, but he's made some spectacular plays out there. I love Husso moving forward. Who knows by the time we actually start getting good if that's your goalie. But it's at least kind of a piece you can have sitting there until you get some of these younger prospects coming up. I forgot the goalie's name that they have down there in Grand Rapids, but I think that's your goalie in the future, at least once you start getting good and getting the franchise moving forward from that point.
I'll give Yzerman a lot of props, too, for having the wherewithal to have those hold me over players so that the team isn't, it's not like the Tigers where the team's just abysmal and you're like, well, when's it coming? Like, you can see some of those building blocks with the Red Wings and, hey, these guys are good right now. And then these young guys are going to come up and they're going to be even better.
Yeah, I think that's how I kind of feel about the Detroit Pistons, even though a lot of people are probably going to shake their head with me saying that. But with Cade Cunningham, Jaden Ivey, Durham, you can see something there, even though the record's not reflecting. You can see that they got some young talent. They just got to grow up. The problem is, like we talked about with the salary cap era that we have in all these sports, is once they start getting good, you're not going to be able to re-sign all of them. You watch them grow up, and you got to let 2 of them walk just to sign 1, which kind of sucks. I wish they, I'm not really for salary cap. I know it keeps everything competitive, but it sucks. Like, let's say the Red Wings do start getting good, and then you got to come down to, okay, we're going to sign Mo Sider or Raymond. You can't keep both because you don't have enough money. And it just sucks once you get to that point. You got to let one of them walk. Hopefully that doesn't happen. The Lions had that situation with, Calvin Johnson, Sue, and Stafford. They couldn't keep all 3 of them. So they had to let, one of them walk at that point, which ended up being Sue, and I think Nick Fairley had to leave too. But I think that's kind of the downfall of having a salary cap is you get these high draft picks, and when it comes time to get their second contract, you can't sign all of them.
Yeah, it's a definite downside. And there's one thing that I think like Yzerman too is going to be able to do is manage that. Because for my money, I think he's the best GM in hockey. I'm a Jets fan, so we don't have a GM that knows what he's doing. My team went and lost 5 in a row after the All-Star break, and now they're probably going to miss the playoffs.
You lost Patrick Laine, man. That was my guy out there when he was with the Jets. Now he's over in Columbus.
The Wings have a lot of potential, and honestly, I think the one team right now that's still, like, in relation to Detroit sports, that's still really at the baseline of that rebuild is probably the Tigers, just because, you can maybe see a couple of one piece, at
Riley.
Least on the hitting side, Riley, and then on the pitching side, it's just a matter of, are people going to be able to be healthy or not?
You know, Matt Manning was showing some promise out there. I love Matt Manning. You heard so much about him for about 2 or 3 years, and I was actually surprised that Mize got his first start coming into the bigs at Manning because he was being groomed down there. So I still got hope for Matt Manning. He has the size. I think hopefully he can come through. But, yeah, positional-wise, though, yeah, they're screwed, and they're going to have to definitely kind of build up from the bottom after having, 2 or 3 years, maybe, 5 with Avila that you thought at this point, after 4 or 5 years, these guys would start coming through. But injuries have just killed the Detroit Tigers rebuild. As when they started selling off Verlander, J.D. Martinez, you got nothing back. And I know Verlander, I mean, it's funny to look back at it now, and I think a lot of people forget when Verlander got traded, he really wasn't that coveted. I think a lot of people thought he was on the downward part of his career. Obviously, he goes to Houston and completely turns it around and turns into the old Justin Verlander. But they still could have at least got something more than they did for him. What was that catcher that we got? Was it Rogers? Was Rogers the catcher that we got back from him? Something like that. Rogers, I think, is working down the street at the party store that I go to where I got this energy drink. I think that's where he's at right now. Well, meanwhile, Justin Verlander's on the Mets. Probably going to at least get to the damn playoffs. So, yeah, the return they got on those guys was absolutely horrible. It was rotten.
Yeah, I think I saw a statistic last season that there's only one player from all of those trades still on the Tigers.
Oh, no.
And they're like 26 or 27, and they're still in like Double-A, so they're not going to make it to the big leagues.
Oh, that's probably one of the most depressing things I've heard all day. Thank you for telling me that. That's going to probably be stuck in my head all day, even when I, brush my teeth. I'm going to be thinking about that. That's awful, man. How do you only get that back? And Scherzer, too. I forgot about Max Scherzer. I think with Scherzer, he got pissed off that, remember that he turned down that contract. And I think he got pissed off that kind of got floated out there in the media. I don't know if that's the main reason why he left. But look at those guys. You had Scherzer, Verlander, David Price. Who else was in that starting rotation?
Rick Porcello.
Porcello, who I think won a Cy Young when he went to Boston, didn't he? Oh, my God.
And a World Series.
Oh, man. Awful.
Every single one of those pitchers has, don't forget Anibal Sanchez. Every single one of those pitchers has won a World Series since they left the Tigers. Every single one. Anibal and Max got him with Washington. Verlander obviously got his. Porcello got his. Then even Drew Smyly was in that rotation. I think he's even won a World Series.
Oh.